In the world of mixed martial arts, timing is everything. You can have the skills, the hype, the fans behind you, but one injury can erase months of buildup in a heartbeat. Over the years, we've seen some truly legendary matchups fall apart, not because someone was scared, not because contracts fell through, but because the human body simply gave out. Today, we're counting down 10 of the greatest MMA fights that never happened, all because of injuries. These fights could have changed divisions, legacies, and maybe even GOAT debates. Let's dive in. Back in 2019, Tsaryukan made his UFC debut against Islam Makhachev. And even though he lost, he shocked everyone by taking Islam to the limit. It was one of the most competitive grappling fights we've ever seen in the lightweight division. Since then, both guys have gone on a tear. Islam became champion. Arman worked his way up, destroying top contenders and earning serious hype. Fans were calling for the rematch. And after Charles Oliveira pulled out of UFC 294, many thought Arman would step in. But the UFC went with Volkanovski instead. Again, at UFC 302, Arman was left out, and Dustin Poirier got the title shot. So once again, this elite rematch slipped through the cracks. Whether it was bad timing or unfortunate injuries, we still haven't seen how a fully developed Tsaryukan matches up with the champ. It's one of the best fights the UFC never gave us. At least, not yet. After Leon Edwards defended his belt against Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington, the UFC was looking for fresh challengers. That's when talks started about a potential #1 contender, bout between Belal Muhammad and Shavkat Rakhmonov. Belal had been on an incredible unbeaten streak, grinding his way through top names like Stephen Thompson, Vicente Luque, and Gilbert Burns. He wasn't flashy, but he was consistent, and he earned his spot at the top. Meanwhile, Rakhmonov was the complete opposite. An undefeated finisher from Kazakhstan, 100% finish rate, and massive hype. A fight between these two would have been the perfect test. The gritty veteran versus the rising destroyer. The UFC reportedly tried to make the fight happen in mid-2024, but Muhammad pulled out due to injury. Rumors say he wasn't cleared medically and needed more recovery time after fighting Burns with a damaged ankle. It wasn't a title fight, but it was one of those key matchups that could have decided who truly deserved the next shot. This is the biggest fight that never happened. GSP, the welterweight king. Anderson Silva, the middleweight GOAT. Both dominating their divisions at the same time. Dana White tried to book it. Fans begged for it. But injuries, timing, and personal choices kept it from happening. GSP took a long hiatus due to mental and physical exhaustion. Silva shattered his leg in the Chris Weidman rematch. By the time GSP returned to beat Michael Bisping, Silva had already passed his prime. It's a fight that could have defined an era and settled the eternal GOAT debate. In late 2020, Khamzat Chimaev was the breakout star of the UFC. 3 fights, 3 dominant wins, and a massive fan base behind him. The UFC wasted no time and booked him against top contender Leon Edwards. But then, COVID hit. Khamzat contracted the virus and suffered severe complications, even hinting at retirement due to lingering effects on his lungs. The fight was booked 3 times and cancelled 3 times. By the time Chimaev returned, Leon had already moved on and earned his title shot. After Daniel Cormier knocked out Stipe Miocic to become heavyweight champ in 2018, Brock Lesnar stormed the octagon and shoved him. Fans were shocked. Was Lesnar coming back? Were we about to see DC versus The Beast? The fight was discussed, hyped, even verbally agreed upon. But Brock pulled out of the USADA testing pool. He reportedly failed to reach terms with the UFC and had lingering injuries from his wrestling and MMA days. Cormier would go on to rematch Miocic instead, and the Lesnar fight faded into myth. John Jones, the most dominant light heavyweight in history, moving up to challenge Cain Velasquez, the baddest man at heavyweight. Dana White even teased it.
To be honest, I would fight Cain Velasquez in a heartbeat. I really would. And I would love to fight AKA's best athletes. And I believe I could defeat them all. I believe that our team is the best team in the world. With that being said, my maturity has allowed me to make weight a lot easier. This camp, around being 3 weeks outside of the camp, I started having to eat more, forcing myself to eat more to keep my weight up. I was losing weight too fast, and that's a testament to hard work, focus, discipline.
Definitely, you know, anyone. That's why I'm in the sport, you know, to fight the best guys, to be the best out there. So to me, it's just, you know, go out there, perform, and win, and just take on the best guys. So
people call Jon Jones the greatest of all time. You think you can beat Jon Jones and avenge your teammates' loss?
I think I could.
But it never materialized. Why? Injuries. Cain's knees and back began falling apart. Surgeries piled up. Jones, meanwhile, stayed at 205 longer than expected and had his own legal troubles. Even when Jones finally moved to heavyweight years later, Cain was long retired. It was the perfect stylistic clash that fans never got. A what-if that still stings. When Dillashaw was champ, his striking and footwork looked revolutionary. But the one guy whose style it evolved from, Dominic Cruz. Fans begged for a showdown. Dillashaw versus Cruz. The footwork war. But Cruz spent most of his prime on the sidelines, battling ACL tears, groin injuries, and more. They eventually fought in 2016, and Cruz won a razor-close decision. Still, we never got their fight at full health, when both were firing on all cylinders. That version could have been a technical masterpiece. July 2015, UFC 189, Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo was the biggest fight in UFC history at the time. But just 2 weeks before the event, Aldo pulled out due to a rib injury. McGregor faced Chad Mendes instead and won the interim belt. They eventually fought in December, where Conor famously knocked Aldo out in 13 seconds. But fans still wonder, what if Aldo had been healthy? What if the pressure, the build-up, and Conor's mind games didn't affect him the same way? We'll never know. This one was pure violence waiting to happen. Jon Jones versus Rumble Johnson at UFC 187. Rumble had just obliterated Alexander Gustafsson and looked like the most terrifying KO artist at 205. But just weeks before the fight, Jon Jones was involved in a hit-and-run incident and was stripped of his title.
But new trouble this morning for a mixed martial arts champion. UFC star Jon Jones turned himself into police overnight after leaving the scene of an accident where he crashed his car, injured a pregnant woman. He's free on bond this morning, but he could face serious charges.
The man who many call the best pound-for-pound mixed martial arts fighter in the world and one of the sport's biggest draws is fighting felony charges that threaten to knock him out.
Lock it up all day long, John.
He's the telegenic face of the UFC.
Take your back leg and you want to push it right in my stomach.
Push it into your stomach.
Known as much for his endorsement deals as his fighting prowess.
Every morning I'm doing some style of martial art, whether it's like jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing.
But this morning, light heavyweight champion Jon Jones is facing possible felony charges for an alleged hit and run at an Albuquerque, New Mexico intersection Sunday.
Unknown injuries, 3 vehicles.
The fight was canceled. Rumble fought DC instead, and Jones wouldn't return for over a year. It remains one of the biggest missed opportunities for fans craving high-level chaos. Of course, number one had to be this cursed fight. Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson. Booked 5 times, canceled 5 times. Knees, ribs, lungs. Something always got in the way. At their peaks, this fight could have been an all-time classic. Khabib's crushing top control versus Tony's unpredictable jiu-jitsu and pressure. Some say Tony was the guy to beat Khabib. We'll never know. Khabib retired undefeated. Tony's decline was heartbreaking. And we're left with one of the biggest what-if fights in MMA history. Injuries are the silent killers of dream fights. They don't show up on a highlight reel, but they shape the history of MMA just as much as knockouts and title belts.